How to free yourself from the clutches of anxiety. So this was a big one that really kind of stuck with me throughout my life. Is had a lot of anxiety attacks when I was younger, especially my late teen years and into my early adulthood, probably even into my 30s. I would say anxiety like really ruled my life. It was really bad. It was crazy too because, when I was younger, 14, 16, I didn't have any anxiety. I had no problem in any social situation or going anywhere or doing anything. For whatever reason, adulthood, I think, brought it out in me. But I'm glad I passed through that flame because now I can share what I've learned with you. And I think it will actually help you and probably get through your situation a lot faster than I did with mine. So basically what anxiety comes down to is three things. It's being overstimulated, it's wanting too much from the moment, and it's also a good result of a poor diet. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's really not all of three of those things. What it is more than any of that is it's an overactive part of your brain. So anxiety is in the left prefrontal cortex of your brain. So if you think about habits and addictions and things like that, anxiety is another one of those things. It's like when you start to feel anxiety, it can go on and on and on and on and on. And you're thinking about it. And what you're doing is you're building more neural connections in that part of your brain that actually causes the anxiety to come out in you. Now, I'm not saying that we're not going to handle those other three things because those are important as well, because that's actually what helps us deal with any anxiety that we have in the future. But to start with, it really just becomes part of that matrix in our brain where it's just overactive, just too much going on, and it's just going to keep running that same cycle. So here's the fix. It was really cool. So I started learning about Buddhist meditation and science research about it. And what I found was, since they practice feeling compassion all the time, they actually have an overactive prefrontal cortex on the right side. So what I was able to figure out was, if we start feeling compassion when we're feeling anxiety, what that's going to do is that's going to shift the energy from the anxiety over to the compassion side. And over time, what's going to happen is the anxiety side is going to start to weaken, and the compassion side is going to start to grow and strengthen. It's really beautiful how that works. Now, you can use it in just about any situation. If you are in a situation that you can't get out of and you're having an anxiety attack, just think about what it feels like to care about the people around you, and what'll happen is it's just going to change you instantaneously. It might not take the actual feeling of anxiety out of your body, but it's going to allow it to not run your life anymore and not control you and shut you down, and that's what helps. And now, that is the other problem with anxiety, is we think it has all this power over us, but that's only because we allow it to have that power over us. We've given our power away to our anxiety, and we just say, oh, it runs my life, there's nothing I can do. But it's just like being afraid of thunder. It's like in that movie Ted, where they have the Thunder Buddy song, F you thunder, or whatever. You can do that with the anxiety. F you anxiety. Like, that's what I started doing. I just started making a joke out of it. Instead of taking it so serious, it was like, well, I'm feeling anxiety, but I'm still in the situation, so the best thing I can do is just deal with it and not worry about it. I did another video where I talked about how we don't feel our feelings, and anxiety is one of those things. We don't really feel it. We think we do, but what we're really experiencing is all the thoughts that we're thinking about it. So one of the cool parts about anxiety is when you just acknowledge that you're feeling it, that allows it to transmute into something else and allows you to actually use that anxiety in the situation as a positive energy source, as opposed to it shutting you down. And that's what we don't realize. Like I said, being overstimulated is there's a lot of energy going on inside of you, and you don't have the proper outlet for it. You're holding it back too much. And that's a product of, being in the culture and the society we're in that's kind of against our biology. So it kind of goes back and forth between the two. But when I talked about the things like wanting too much from the moment, or, not having the brain health, and those issues, what happens is when we're new into anxiety and it's really running our life, is that's what we see is it does those things, So most of us in today's day and age, and especially in our modern society, we don't eat well, we don't exercise right, we stare at a screen, so we've got a very unhealthy brain to begin with. And what that can cause is the anxiety to become overactive as well. So that can be a bad thing. But if we look at anxiety as wanting too much in the future, I'm thinking too much about all that stuff. And then we look at depression, and that's more thinking more bad about the past. And I'll deal with that in another video, but I just want to focus on the anxiety. So I hope that if you really think about the compassion side of things, that really helps drag you out of it. Now, do I still get anxiety attacks? You betcha. But they're not more attacks, they're more like just that energy comes up in me, and now I know what to do with it because now I know what it is. So if it happens, I don't worry about it. So, I've also improved my diet. When you get more omega-3 fats in your body, this is all stuff you can look up yourself. I'm not a doctor, so, look up do your own research, talk to your doctor. But the more we do brain healthy things like eating omega-3 fats and exercising and limiting television and limiting processed food, that's going to allow those things to not overwhelm us either. That's part of the problem with depression as well, is it becomes this overwhelming thing because our brain isn't healthy enough to deal with these issues, and that can be tough. So I hope this video was helpful. I think that we can all just be free from the clutches of anxiety and not let it run our lives. It doesn't run my life, and it's always hurts me when I see people walking down the street and I can tell that there's a lot of anxiety going on in there. And again, it comes down to the other side of things, is more awareness, less thinking. When you're feeling and experiencing a lot of anxiety, you're hearing your thoughts racing and you're focusing too much on your thoughts. And that's another good time to just get down on the body and just feel your senses and just breathe and things like that. As we do that and we begin to ignore our thoughts running a mile a minute, that voice starts to shut up. This is the beautiful thing, is the only reason you listen to all these thoughts going on is because you allow it to. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to listen to what you're saying right now, and most of it's BS, and that's why you got to say F you anxiety and F you negative thoughts. We don't need that in our lives. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Thank you.